Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and you know that terrorist entity that's killed millions of people over the past 20 or so years? I'm not talking about the Taliban, that was armed and funded by the US government. I'm not talking about Al-Qaeda that was armed and funded by the US government. I'm not talking about ISIS that was armed and funded by the US government. I'm talking about the US government. Well, they don't seem to like democracy all that much when it comes to Iraqis voting for some form of democracy. It's funny because the US government went to Iraq and claimed that they were trying to spread democracy there. But when the Iraqi Parliament recently voted to kick the US out of their country, the US said a resounding no. Now, recent protests in the street against the US government's involvement in Iraq, as well as the leadership in Iraq, is kind of a dual protest, led to more than 600 deaths. And we recently covered in a live stream this article here out of Zero Hedge. Iraq protest death toll soars past 600 after fresh weekend unrest. Well, now there's more news coming out. As this anti-media article says, U.S. military announces 3 new bases in Iraq after Iraqis demand full withdrawal. So wait a second. Everyone in Iraq is essentially saying, get the F out of our country. I mean, they're trying to go to war with Iran in Iraq and utilizing Iraq as a battleground right as they were starting to recover from the millions killed over there by the U.S. government and other major entities within the military-industrial complex. They tell the U.S. to leave, and the U.S. decides, well, let's put 3 more bases. And it was crazy because recently Trump demanded that we'll leave when Iraq pays for this base. And it's like, wait a second. It turned out, you look back at it, Iraq paid for that thing in the first place, that base in the first place. At gunpoint, essentially. That was their base. Why would they pay the U.S. for a base that they originally paid for? It's just so insane. But let's get into this article here. As it says, less than a week after millions of Iraqis took to the streets demanding the U.S. military leave for good, the United States announced that it is planning to build 3 new military bases in Iraq, according to military news service Breaking Defense. The 3 sites chosen, Erbil, Soleimani, and Halabja, are all extremely close to Iran, with Halabja, the site of the 1988 chemical weapons attack, just 8 miles from the border. Well, how convenient is that, folks? Carrying on, it says, the news will come as a shock to the Iraqi Parliament, who earlier this month voted overwhelmingly with some abstentions to expel American forces from the country. But the U.S. government has flatly refused to leave. And I quote, at this time, any delegation sent to Iraq would be dedicated to discussing how to best recommit to our strategic partnership, not to discuss troop withdrawal, but our right appropriate force posture in the Middle East, said State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus, adding, we strongly urge Iraqi leaders to reconsider the importance of the ongoing economic and security relationships between the 2 countries. We believe it is in the shared interest of the United States and Iraq to continue fighting ISIS together. ISIS that the U.S. armed and funded, that's great. Earlier this month, the U.S. decided to send an extra 3,000 troops to the region. What was all that stuff about Trump withdrawing the troops from Iraq? Oh, it must be 4D chess or something. Carrying on, it says, President Trump responded by threatening sweeping mass punishments against the Iraqi people. And I quote, we're not leaving unless they pay us back for it. If they do ask us to leave, if we don't do it in a very friendly basis, we will charge them sanctions like they've never seen before, ever. He said, U.S.-led sanctions on Iraq in the 1990s are thought to have killed over 1 million people, including 500,000 young children. Successive UN diplomats in charge of Iraq during the sanctions denounced them as genocide against its people. Trump said his sanctions would make the ones on Iran look tame by comparison. And before you get to start saying, oh, you sound like CNN. No, CNN is bogus. They don't talk about this. They were propping up the Iraq war all along. This is about truth. This is about consistency. This is about, regardless of the president, always demanding freedom and peace, non-violence, not murdering hundreds of thousands of children. It seems pretty reasonable to ask. But carrying on in this article, it says, and I quote, If there's any hostility, he said, we are going to put sanctions on Iraq. Very big sanctions. Trump also threatened to commit genocide against the people of Iran, destroying their cultural heritage sites, in a move condemned by many and compared to the Taliban's destruction of the world-renowned Buddhas of Bamiyan in Afghanistan. Despite the president's threats, enormous numbers of Iraqis heeded Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr's call for a 1 million-man march in Baghdad last week. While Time magazine claimed there were only hundreds in attendance, drone footage told a very different story. Some estimates put the total at over 2.5 million, and despite Bloomberg Quick Take originally claiming that they were anti-government demonstrations, the huge banner on the main stage reading "Get Out America" in uppercase English letters suggested otherwise, and you can see footage there. Carrying on, it says, hostilities between the United States and Iran threatened to spiral out of control after the January 3rd assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani had been invited to Baghdad by Iraqi Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi for regional peace talks. Abdul Mahdi asked Trump for permission for Soleimani to enter Iraq. Trump accepted, then used the opportunity to kill the general with a drone strike, something the Iraqi Parliament declared a violation of their national sovereignty. In retaliation, the Iranians fired ballistic missiles at U.S.-occupied bases in Iraq, causing pinpoint damage but no fatalities, as the U.S. was warned of the impending response. And the Pentagon has said that dozens of troops have suffered brain injuries as a result, but the president disagrees, claiming they amount to little more than headaches. How nice. It shows here estimated number of U.S. troops based in the Middle East. It's just over the top, absolutely ridiculous. And what happened to taking the troops out of this region? Carrying on, it says, the plan to build new bases will be seen in Iran as an attempt to tighten the noose around it more tightly. There are already over 65,000 American military personnel in neighboring countries. The U.S. continues to occupy Iraq and Afghanistan since the invasions launched in the wake of the 2001 World Trade Center attacks. Since 2003, an estimated 2.4 million people have been killed in the U.S. war on Iraq. One of the consequences of the wars in the Middle East was the rise of the Islamic State, which itself has led to further conflict. The U.S. military also operates from a network of bases in Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and many other states in the region. The move to establish 3 new U.S. military bases on Iran's border will not be a welcome move to those who wish to de-escalate tensions, least of all by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, who moved their doomsday clock to just 100 seconds to midnight, setting a possible regional nuclear catastrophe as a factor. And you could see all these fake news medias that Trump rightly calls out are all in on this. They're all covering up the truth here because it's all called COINTELPRO. It's all called propaganda for a reason. They have controlled opposition on both sides. You have these so-called anti-establishment figures and the establishment, and they're both beamed into your heads in the mainstream, and they both end up being establishment, promoting the biggest globalist, big government, socialist, communist entity in the world, the military-industrial complex that kills millions and millions and millions of people. Look, the whole war is based on a lie. We know that now. And with the Afghanistan papers and the Syrian dossier, we also know that Afghanistan was completely based on a lie as well. And Syria was a sexed up dossier in order to get the people, propagate the people into supporting a war in Syria based on false allegations against Assad. Look, none of these governments are good. The Iranian, Iraqi, Syrian government, all terrible, all terrible. No one's arguing that. It's not this side or that side. It's peace and freedom, and that only. That only. Look, people voted in Obama because they thought he would end the war in Iraq, but he dropped more bombs than any president in history. Period. Trump is working very hard, seemingly, well, maybe not him, but his people or the deep state or whoever you want to call it, are working very, very hard to actually beat Obama's record at the rate he's dropping bombs today. People voted in Trump too to get out of Iraq. Isn't it interesting that all these presidents keep getting elected on the basis of being a non-interventionist, and then they're not? Every single one. And then their freaking supporters defend them and say it's all 4D chess every single time, or say that it's for America and these people are bad guys and they might attack America. How many times do we have to go through this? I mean, this has been going on for freaking ever. Going back to FDR arming and funding Ho Chi Minh, or going back to the US propping up Hitler against the communists, or the USSR against Hitler, and later the Mujahideen, later Al-Qaeda against the USSR. Arming and funding the Iraqi Ba'athist Party against Iran, leading to one of the bloodiest wars in history. Arming and funding Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS. How many times are we going to go through this? False flags over here, blowing up ships over here, blaming the other side, and people keep falling for it. Even though we have seen a big sway towards independent media, you know, the censors have been cutting it down a lot lately and trying to stop independent media like ourselves from being seen, because we are attacking that ridiculous propagated, indoctrinated narrative that's pushed on people through public schools, indoctrination camps, into the media, the adult daycares that cause people to repeat after me, Simon Says, blab on or regurgitate whatever they're told. This is terrorism, what we are seeing today. You don't have to support their country. You don't have to support their religion, but for God's sake, support some kind of human decency and not support blowing up children and then expect everything to get better. It's order out of chaos. You cause a problem and you come in as a solution. Trillions of dollars, thousands of troops, millions of innocent people. And how many times are we going to do that? We're going to have some simpletons commenting and saying, oh, you just hate Trump. No, I hate the idea of slavery. I hate the idea of blowing up children. It's not 4D chess anymore. It's not. Do you know how many people are dying? The news just isn't reporting on it. It was like when they said Trump was pulling out of Syria. The media attacked him for pulling out of Syria. Then they didn't report 1 week later when he said he was actually going to stay in Syria. It's because the media, it's all part of a script. You can go back to the 7-country plan by General Wesley Clark. You can talk about this all the, I mean, look, this isn't the attack Trump media. This is being consistent. And some people need to learn how to be consistent regardless of their loyalties to some figurehead they've never met, don't actually know personally, and blindly support because they say nice things. That's what politicians do, and they're catching on to how much more intelligent people are getting, so they can step up their propaganda every single election. And I hope nobody notices. Oh, maybe the anti-establishmentarianists will get it right this time. Bill Clinton was anti-establishment. George W. Bush, if you can remember, in the 2000 election was considered anti-establishment. Obama, anti-establishment. Trump, very anti-establishment. He was calling Bill Clinton a rapist. They have to do certain things in order to get the public on their side and then divide the rest of them against the people that voted in Trump, and divide among the populace so that they're completely distracted by each other and not looking at the real enemy, the real entity holding the strings up and enslaving the populace. It's about time you start actually calling out things consistently, and I know a lot of people watching this do. Hit that like button if you do. I hope you do. But it's just we are going in circles, seemingly perpetually. And I know a lot of people watching this know that, and I've seen it over the decades. I mean, and it's very frustrating to deal with. But we must reject, object, disobey immediately, because we are seeing the risk of millions of more deaths. And that's not fear-mongering. It's happened before in the last 20 years, and it's set to happen again if there's a war with Iran. It's set to happen again if we don't stop aggressing against the rest of the world. This is globalist collectivism. Government is organized crime. It's just a racket, and the only difference between that and a gang, some organized street gang, is that they have a whole bunch of cheerleaders waving flags in their colors. Then again, you have the Crips and the Bloods, or the red and the blue and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, the only difference is that people are cheerleaders and beg to be extorted, beg to be enslaved, because one makes them more comfortable than the other. Their subservience, their apathy, their stupidity, their weakness. They'd rather mommy or daddy government come in and save them all from the problems it created in the first place and look the other way, out of sight, out of mind, right? Not so much when they're knocking on your door, stealing most of your money, paying off the interest on the debt created at the fraudulent creation of currency through usury and legal tender laws, and then paying all this money, trillions of dollars, to blow up children. Is that freedom? Is that spreading democracy? I actually would say it's probably spreading democracy. Two wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for dinner, vast collectivism, but it certainly is far from freedom. It's time to start calling out the terrorism. Now, anyway, I appreciate everyone watching. This video will 100% be demonetized. It might even be taken down. You can't call, the military-industrial complex a bunch of terrorists. Well, they are. What else would you call spreading ideology by fear and murder? That's terrorism. Fact. 100%. So we need your help, guys. Check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. $5 or more a month keeps independent media alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app. The future of social media, replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon, all in one, with encrypted private messaging, monetization on videos, where we have done exclusive Flote videos that aren't to be seen on YouTube because they're not safe for YouTube, and also live streams with super chats where you can utilize cryptocurrency. There's no algorithm telling you what you can or cannot see. Join Flote, guys. Links below. Crypto as well. Anything you can do to help save us. Pressing like and sharing the video. Whatever you can do. It makes a huge difference. We're also on BitChute, Minds, etc. So anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us. And comment below, end the wars. End the wars. We'll know you've watched this far into the video, and it'll help our algorithm. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone joining us, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, Wham! Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated, as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a patron. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on flote.app. That's flote.app. At Josh Sigurdson, as well as at Wham, W-A-M. Flote.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Flote and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are 2 major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WHAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.